Now that we have accomplished all of our cleanup work, we are now ready to soften the skin. Yet before we do that, let's go ahead and organize our layers panel. We'll click in the layer group strap and then hold in the shift key and click in clean up that bottom layer. Then press Command G on a Mac, Control G on a PC. Again, that's Command G on a Mac, Control G on a PC. Let's name this new group Cleanup. Here's our before and after. Great. Now what we want to do is begin to soften the skin. So we're going to need to merge all of the underlying layers to the topmost layer. Let's do that by pressing Shift Option Command E on a Mac, Shift Alt Control E on a PC. Name this Skin Smooth. Now our skin smoothing is going to be pretty simple with this file because it's already in pretty good shape. Let's double click the zoom tool. Next, what we're going to do is navigate to our filter pull down menu and choose blur and surface blur. Now, some of you are going to be thinking, okay, Chris, that looks horrible. I don't know what you're doing. This isn't a good idea. Well, just stick with me for a second. Your radius and your threshold, basically you're looking for an amount where you see a lot of softening on the image. We'll go ahead and click OK. Next, we're going to hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, and click on that layer mask, add layer mask icon so it creates a mask filled with black. And again, on a Mac, you hold down the Option key and click on that icon. On a PC, hold down the Alt key and click on that icon. Next, we're going to grab our brush tool. We're going to paint with a pretty low opacity, something probably below 50%. I'm going to go maybe down to 40 or so. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just start to paint in a little bit of this softening effect. Now with this particular image, we're going to soften the skin more than you probably would soften the skin on other photographs because again, this one's a little bit ethereal and it's a little bit kind of emotional in that sense. The color palette right now is cool and it's a little bit dreamlike maybe. That's perhaps what I'm trying to say. We'll look at some other skin softening techniques. This is just a super simple one and it will work for this photograph. It's not the best softening technique in the world. And we'll look at some others that will be much more complicated and will work actually much better when you have more detail that you need to work with. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make my way around this image and make my brush nice and big down here. Again, just looking to take the edge off. And a lot of what I'm doing here, you may not even be able to really see on this movie. You may have to zoom in on your movie to actually see what's happening or experiment with this technique. So go ahead and make my way around this. And you can see my mask over there. I have different brush strokes painting with different intensity as I'm going through this, which is really nice. And then if we zoom in even further, so we can see some of the detail areas, one of the things that we're going to see is that we were able to take the edge off a lot of the detail here. Here's our before and then our after. Zooming in even further, before and then after. Well, I think I took out too much, but no big deal. I can always lower the opacity and find the middle ground. Here's my before and after. So keep in mind that what I'm trying to do isn't to make surreal skin necessarily, although we will talk about that later, but I'm just trying to take the edge off of that. And with this particular photograph, the genre or the idea or the concept, I think, is a little bit more conceptual than realistic. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my mask and continue to bring in a little bit of the softening. It's going to soften up my edges. It's going to soften up some of the different retouching that I've done already. And a lot of times what will happen is when you do this, you'll think, okay, I'm in decent shape. My mask is okay. My painting is okay. Probably isn't. Let's hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, and click on your mask icon. Well, there it is. There are all my brush strokes. Okay, well, a lot of different opacities there, and it's not that exact. How can I fix that up a little bit? Well, one of the things we can do is go to the mask panel. And in the mask panel, I can feather this, which will soften those edges, very similar to the technique we've looked at with a Gaussian blur. That's going to help things out quite a bit. Option or Alt click that mask again to take that off. And again, we can just take up that feathering amount. It just softens all those edges and creates a little bit more of a smooth effect. We can also control the density of the mask. And as I control the density, we can see that more of this is being revealed. So I have less of a mask, or in this case, I have more of a mask. So we can control it that way as well. Now with this particular image, I'm thinking that that looks pretty good. Just a little bit of softening, a little bit of taking off of the edge, maybe lower the opacity even a bit more. I don't want to go too far with it, but I think that will work for this particular one. All right, well, now that we've softened the skin, we're ready to move on to our next step, and we'll do that in the next movie.